Hi, everybody. It is Monday, October 10th, 2022. It's episode number 264 of the Immigration Lawyer Toolbox. Welcome, fellow Toolboxers who are, expanding their practice and expanding their knowledge of immigration law and running their businesses and working other businesses, but help to expand. There's a lot going on. So, last week I didn't do an episode. Just the responsibilities of being a dad have played a toll on me where I just couldn't get it going. But I did record three different interviews, which I got to edit now. So there's a lot of content coming up. Sorry about missing the last one, but got a lot of good. We're doing the top 10. The 10 stuff I'm going to go over today is really interesting. So definitely stay tuned and check those different parts out. We make clips of these too. So on Instagram and on Facebook and our YouTube page. So there's specific ones you can do and watch. And once my team gets it, we put timestamps so you can fast forward a lot of stuff too on the YouTube page. So definitely check that out. I was just looking right now. I looked in a while, but we almost have 1,700 subscribers on the YouTube page, which my law firm YouTube page is almost 15,000, which is not a lot compared to the top people. But just having the secondary channels for immigration lawyers, this number is pretty good. So definitely check that out. And so that's that. Now, at the end of I think the last episode that I did, I talked about how business is going out. I've seen some sort of slowdown in conversion or delays in people hiring us as their firm, as well as primarily the payment plans, which pushes payments today to a couple months. So the revenue coming in for this month or this quarter may drop to a certain extent because of it. And I'm like, that's pretty reflective of what's going on in the economy. So it affects the firms. And if it's happening to y'all, like let me know. It's interesting to see how this is playing out. But the consumer of the product is going to have hit by this, and so eventually it's going to hit us. And then the question becomes, we were in the process of raising prices and inflation. Maybe not raising prices, maybe going the opposite direction, bringing them lower, may be the way to go to make sure we get these clients. We are hiring more, and we have more attorneys that are overseas attorneys, so that helps the bottom line with regards to payroll, which means it gives us flexibility to be able to charge lower prices, just to help people out during this time as the economy goes bad. But I was researching, our case files and stuff like that over the weekend, and one thing I saw is the delays in USCIS adjudicating I-130s and I-129Fs has a big issue too with our what's going on the firm, because in those cases we have step one, which is filing the petition, and then 6-8 months later on average these were getting approved. Then we would have constant processing, which is like a 1-2 punch of fees coming in. And what we're seeing is like we have fiance I-129F taking 13 months now. We have marriage case taking 10 plus months now. And so that delays the second payment that comes with step two of the process. That's how we split up payments in our firm. So we have, you're doing the I-130, pay for that. And then once constant processing starts, we have a new contract. We bifurcate it. We don't have a one contract for both. And there's reasons for that, which I've talked with. We'll talk about it later. But and then that payment second. So these it's not only the economy, it's USCIS' slowdown and their failure of their promise to have everything done within 6 months in September, by September happening. So it's interesting to see how this all plays out, the dynamics and stuff like that. But we have certain cards we can pull out of our back pocket. For example, with the growth in our team, we have team members that are experiencing different things. So we're going to be doing federal litigation. We're adding people on that. We started taking on 601 waivers again because we have team members on that. We can do perm, L1s, EB1A, O1s, all this stuff that has shut down the firm for many years because I didn't have the time to do them all. With new members, we have this. So we have a lot of different things we could pull to get things to the next level, which is going to happen, double and triple the firm. So that's something to think about it in your firm. If you're doing removal or doing marriage, family-based, or all this kind of stuff, what kind of stuff could you add that you may not be doing? And this kind of goes hand in hand with the conference, the Toolbox conference in February 24th, Friday, all-day conference on doing O1 visa. Maybe you could add the O1 to your toolbox to have an additional way of additional case type that you could handle, and you could make up for any issues that come about because of the way the economy is going by bringing in new types of cases that you may not have gone in the past. So RSVP time for getting the lower price. I haven't put it to public, but email me before the 15th so you can get the lower price. But email me. It's going to be a couple $100 less if you get it soon. So info at immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com. And I'll send you a video about this. But essentially, we have the top O1 people in LA are going to be teaching the course, so it's going to be really cool. We're gonna have a dinner and lunch together and stuff like that. And depending on how many people come, we're gonna have like multiple dinners and brunches and stuff like that to really develop the community. So it's gonna be a really educational event, but just as important, the networking aspect is gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So come check that out and expand your practice and expand your toolbox. The next magazine, I'm doing the final touches, a lot of great information. Honestly, because I don't do removal and stuff like that, it's gonna be less stuff related to your removal. I was trying to keep it in there, but like I don't do it, so I can't. It's just that the circles I turn, as you see, if the topics I talk about really go to USCIS and CBP slash NBC or DOS kind of stuff. But there's gonna be a lot of good content in the upcoming one. Check out the old one at immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com for that previous magazine, and it's a lot of fun. If you are really skilled and know a certain area of law, feel free to email me and pitch an article. So we're always happy to promote immigration lawyers. This is the whole goal of the Toolbox. One is the education aspect of you becoming a better immigration lawyer, but also to promote people who don't have the opportunity necessarily to go on certain conferences or publish and stuff like that. We want to expand the ability for a more diverse cast of people that don't have the opportunity to be able to get their name out and do the marketing needed to show how skilled they are. So do that. I want to thank our main sponsor, DocuWise.com. It's always been so helpful sponsoring the podcast and the magazine. DocuWise.com, your all-in-one forms and management solution. If you want additional 10% off their annual plan, go to DocuWise.com/immigration-lawyers-podcast and use the code Immigration Lawyers Podcast. And kind of saying that out loud, I'm rebranding the podcast to say, call it the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast, because then we have the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Magazine, the Immigration Toolbox. So the Toolbox will be the main name, and then podcast, magazine, conference at the end of it. So that's gonna be a cool thing we're gonna do there. So I have to redo like the image and stuff like that. Just call it the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Podcast. So it's a lot of different words, a lot of keywords in there. But I also want to thank our new sponsor, ImmigrationEvaluationDirectory.com. We'll talk about them a little bit later in the show. But now that we're getting into waivers, especially if you do eventually get into asylum too, but this is going to be a key resource because a lot of times waivers, we need a medical evaluation to show the qualifying relative and the harm that psychologically happens to them. And finding a skilled evaluator, a psychologist who's done this, who knows what's going on and what to ask and what the whole point of this is going to be really helpful. And that's why I have this website directory of lawyers that are familiar with this. It's not like unheard of for them. They don't come out there blind. Is great. If you go to immigrationevaluationdirectory.com, real great resource. And the person running it knows immigration really well herself. We'll have her on the show hopefully soon. But it's a great resource. We'll talk about a little bit later in the show. But having said that, fellow toolboxers, let's get it started. So the first thing I want to talk about is about the FOIA. So USCIS and CBP are in this lawsuit about the delays in FOIA. The court had said you got to go by the days, 30 or 60-day responses to FOIA requests and not go so much longer because it was taking like 8 or 9 months, a year a lot of times for USCIS and CBP half the time. We don't even get the FOIA results. But they're challenging and saying, no, we have to get more time. We can't do it. What's interesting thing is USCIS said they had 5,361 cases in backlog, which not that much. I thought they would have like 50,000 cases because at this point, we're almost foiling every single case we get just to be safe because we can't always rely on what our clients tell us. And it's like, why not? Let's just throw FOIA in there. So I was thinking like 5,361, not that bad, but I guess it depends on how big the staff is and what kind of cases they are and getting all that. So they're pushing back and saying they can't respond within the statutory period in this Nightingale class action called a Nightingale class action. It's really stupid. I mean, the statute, get the money and do it but whatever. But on a side note, I came to file a CBP FOIA, and their website said that the old system of uploading stuff to the CBP portal for FOIA has stopped. And I think on the 14th or 15th, they're going to have a new one through the dhs.gov, I think, portal. So I have one case we're waiting for the 14th before we can submit the FOIA. That was a change that happened. So that was the number one point about FOIAs. Number two, it's regarding the visa bulletin and just the numbering of it. And I'm not an expert of this, and I don't really go too much into it because it's like it doesn't make that much of a difference for my practice. But especially if you're doing employment-based immigration, you deal with Indian clients who have to deal with, unfortunately, retrogression backlogs. That studying the chart and talking about it and being on top of it is such an important thing. But apparently, 50 to 60,000 immigrant visas spilled over from the family-based to the employment-based category in October 2022. Normally, EB has 140,000 things, but for next year, it could be like almost 200,000 for this fiscal year. So it's really interesting. They get large numbers. which is kind of weird that this is the case because if you look at the family-based numbers, essentially the whole visa bulletin that just popped up for November last week, like there's no change in dates. Everything's essentially the same. So I don't fully understand how they move this forward on the visa bulletin, but a great resource is Bob Weber on LinkedIn. He's like the best immigration lawyer on LinkedIn who writes stuff, but he also created what's called a Substack. Not a bad place to go and to follow up on what he does. I mean, it's a paid thing, so but you get the headlines in his emails. So follow him on LinkedIn, get the headlines if you really want to subscribe to. It's not a bad thing to do because he's like a I wish I really wanted to be on the Toolbox team and have him be a writer here, which we may do in the future, because he's just prolific and how much he writes on this stuff. And it's good content every time. It's just quality stuff, not fluff. It's amazing. So, Bob, thank you so much. But definitely check that out. And this whole visa bulletin situation is such a hot mess. I mean, Charles Cuck on Twitter always talks smack. I'm saying, like, how is this calculated? It doesn't make any sense. It really needs to be lawsuits to figure out this magic box that like makes up numbers. It's not very clear how this all works out. All right, number three, voting. So DC, the District of Columbia, okayed local voting for non-citizens, their local council, which I never like. There's one lawyer on Twitter who's saying it's condescending to not like it because the worry is that non-citizens will accidentally vote in an election that's going to be problematic or register to vote. But I don't think that's. I mean, that's a realistic issue. I mean, imagine if you're a non-citizen and you vote in the wrong election. That's a removable offense. So it's really dangerous. So I prefer you don't vote than have the chance of doing false claim to citizenship. So we have this in DC. I think New York did a similar thing in local elections, and there must be in the West Coast another one. I think California may have done it. I think California did this thing where you automatically register to vote when you go to DMV, but that you have to be careful if you're not a citizen to not register to vote. All this kind of stuff. What we know with how harsh false claim to citizenship could be, I prefer it didn't exist at all. So just be mindful if you have clients from these jurisdictions that is growing. Always ask the question, have you voted? One thing I do when I get new naturalization clients or even just a naturalization case, I see what states they were living in. And a lot of times it's California because we're local over here. And California is a thing where if you take their driver's license and their last name and their last four digits, their social security number, it tells you if they registered to vote. And I always check. And 99.9% of the time, it's not an issue. But it's better to check and be safe than to not check because it's such a dramatically bad thing if you do false claim. Number four, K1 approval delay. So I talked about the intro of the show, 13 plus months right now for I-129F. But another issue we're having is once the I-129F is approved, getting the MVC to issue a case number is taking 2+ months right now for a lot of cases. So clients are so happy they finally, got the I-129F approved, and we don't have a case number. In the meantime, we do the DS-160 just so that's in. So when we get a case number, we can go and register with the embassy and get the appointment. But it's annoying having to wait for this. We do contact the National Visa Center a lot of time to see what they have to say. And we'll also contact the embassy because sometimes the embassy has a case number and they get it before the National Visa Center does. And so it's been cases. I learned this actually from a client in Jamaica who was really like pushing it and really wanted to get the number. So she went and emailed the embassy, and the embassy gave us the case number before the National Visa Center did. That was that. We have another case right now where we emailed the embassy. They're like, we don't have the file. We contacted the National Visa Center. They're like, we have the file, but we haven't issued a case number for it yet. And it's been 8 weeks. So it's like, what's going on? I mean, why does it take us so long? So that's what we're seeing on our end. Hopefully that information helps in some way or fashion to help your clients kind of like, just calm down because they're stressed out. They want this done. They did the K1 because they thought it was faster, but it's not really. So that's what we're dealing with. Number 5, N400 to N600. So we have cases that pop up where the applicant is actually a citizen because based on the fact that, for example, they were a green card holder, parent naturalized, they became a citizen, but the parents are either passed away, don't have the documents, or they don't talk with the child. They're like estranged from the family, so they can't get the documentation they need. So it's hard to do the N600 because they don't have the documents. A colleague had posted in the group that what they did in one instance was they filed an N400 and they came to deny the N400 because they said the person's already a citizen. And in response to annoyed, they explained it in an affidavit saying, the parents not give us the documents, we don't have anything, we FOIA'd nothing there, but what are we going to do? And all of a sudden they got an interview notice, oath ceremony notice for N600 out of the blue. So they resonated with USCIS and just like, okay, we'll accept it. Which is, I mean, I don't know how that happened. It's maybe not something that could repeatable, but sometimes you got to throw these Hail Mary passes with the system. It'll work. There was another case, I can't talk too directly about it, but it was I mean, this happens a lot. It was a naturalization case where they had abandonment or break of continuous presence issues, and they issued a notice of intent to deny. And then the applicant just wrote a letter, kind of saying sorry, just how it worked out. And they're like, okay, and they approved it, which was like really unexpected because it should have been. So you never know. You got to kind of just push it till the end. And it's not unheard of that things will work out to your favor. Sometimes they issue these notices and deny just to bother you, but then they always approve it. So it's a weird situation, but these things are possible. Don't get too disheartened and push it to the last second, because it's possible that this is all going to work out. A lot of times it does. Okay, so I do want a quick note. We talked about the immigration evaluation directory.com. Did you know research reports psychological evaluations can increase an asylum applicant's chance of approval by 78%. Psychologist evaluations are hugely beneficial in hardship, cancellation, asylum, and other types of cases. Connecting with qualified clinicians has never been easier thanks to the immigration evaluation directory.com. Free to use, you can filter by the directory by location, language, case type, and more. Then review profiles to reach out. This is great because you can find a psychologist for an evaluation that's in the location because this is state-based too. And also find someone who speaks their language. So if they don't speak English, it really helps out. The Immigration Evaluation Directory is your one-stop resource to find the best therapist to help. Explore more at immigrationevaluationdirectory.com. That's immigrationevaluationdirectory.com. Check that out for your cases. So I'm so glad I have that sponsor because it is a valuable resource, especially for me that we're expanding into this area. All right, number 6, Asylee travel on passport. This is a comment, a question I get from randomly emails all the time. I just thought I'd talk about it again. When someone files for asylum in the United States, gets asylum, they're not supposed to use the protections of the home government anymore. And this includes visiting the country they got asylum from, but also includes using the passport of that country because you're not supposed to. In practice, asylees often go back to their home country and often use their passports. They're supposed to use a refugee travel document, which they probably can't use to go back to the home country. They need visas in it. A lot of countries you can't visit, like the Middle East, like UAE, it doesn't accept refugee travel documents as a passport. But that's what it's supposed to do. In practice, what I've seen is no one cares. But you got to be careful because USCIS might make a decision, or CB might make a decision to make an example of somebody have a problem with it. But in practice, I've never seen it be an issue when people travel when they're with their passport and visit a home country, even though they have asylum. I mean, there's always the argument that they don't necessarily fear that this one trip is going to be causing death, but if they go and live in the home country, that's when they can't find work and the threat of their life is there. I prefer clients don't do this, but so when people contact me all the time, I'm like, this is the rules. Do with it as you will. But that's the situation. You got to get the refugee travel document. Don't use the passport. Don't go to your home country. That's the official rule. I tell them, and they can take it from there. But again, your client might be the first person that gets an example of. So I try to be strict on what the guidance I give. Number 7, domicile requirement. So the domicile requirement for affidavit support is really interesting. When I first started practicing immigration, I worked for a guy for 2 years, and the way I learned immigration is like many way people learn immigration, which is to just copy the cover letter and submit forms, just do it without knowing the rules. And then when I started my firm, I learned better. This is one thing for my marriage immigration course that I have. We go through the statute. We cover INA 212. We go for 245. We go through the Code of Federal Regulations. We go through the case law. And be it detailed to actually learn where this stuff comes from before just copy pasting how to do a thing. But having said that, when I was starting my own firm, I got a call once from this lady who was saying, "Yeah, my case, they didn't approve at the embassy because of domicile issue." I'm like, I never heard that, but what the hell is that? And then I realized, affidavit supports have a domicile requirement, which says the petitioning person or whoever the sponsor is and the petitioner needs to be, living in the United States. It has to be their domicile. And then I looked at the statute, which is a vague statute that just says, either living here or at worst, they're going to travel with the applicant to the United States at the same time. And so we have cases right now where petitioners, marriage cases, are living with the people in the home country, and they don't want to move until they come here. So what we do is at the National Visa Center level, when they want proof of domicile, because they see on the affidavit support that where the address of the petitioner is, I add a line to the Code of Federal Regulations, and I copy pasted there. It says, the adjudicating officer of the embassy could make a decision that will approve the visa if they can show that the petitioner applicant are going to come together at the same time. It's not going to be a domicile issue. So that's possible. So we bypass the embassy by telling them that, and then when they go to the embassy, then we got to kind of negotiate. We got to see what's going on, and what them either they'll approve it if they believe it, which is most of the time they won't, unless you're like in a Western European country. Everywhere else they won't. But at that point, we tell clients, have your ticket lined up, have job offers or jobs lined up, go get a place. and then get a bank account, get all this stuff ready to go that shows your life is here and you could do it. So we had this one case was in Eastern Europe. The person got their flight to the United States, the petitioner, and they found a job, which was with a company that a relative owned. And what I did is when we submitted, I told them straight up ahead of time, even though they wouldn't be able to tell on their own, that this is owned by a relative, but it is a real job, and they're going to be working there. And just I don't want them to come back and say we're trying to play a fast one with them. It was a real job. We're confident with it. So we just told them straight up, this is like a cousin owns the company, but it's a legitimate job. And they approved the visa, even though the petitioner is still living in the foreign country with the beneficiary applicant. So just be prepared for that. We have a couple other ones in India right now coming. India is a hard one. They're always really strict there, but we're going to push it from the MVC National Visa Center to the embassy because there's so many delays right now in processing cases in India. We need to get documentary qualified as soon as possible to put them in line. And because getting an appointment is probably going to be 1+ year away, I don't want to move here in the United States and be separated when they have kids and stuff like that. It doesn't make any sense. So it's really important to bypass the National Visa Center section so we get documentary qualified, especially when you're dealing with cases with countries where the appointment for the immigrant visa interview is not going to happen for a long time, to get the ball rolling and then deal with the embassy as it is. They're not going to deny the case. I'm mostly put it admin processing to get more additional proof that the petitioner and joint sponsor, whoever it is living in the United States. So that buys you time, but at least you get the interview, get that out of the way because there's delays. So it's really, really important on the practical side on dealing with these domicile issues. I don't like to. I've had clients have consult with me and said they talk about their attorneys. They said you have to move at the I-130 phase years earlier. So I try to push it to the last second because at the end of the day, these people have families and lives. It's really disruptive to all of a sudden have two households, one in the United States, one there, working here, not visiting the kids, not visiting the family. It's a mess. So I don't believe in that. And I try to help my clients with that. Number 8, ESTA Reset. So when you're here on the ESTA, the Visa Waiver Program, you have 90 days to be here. Sometimes people want to go out and come back in so they get a new 90 days. But the rules say that if under 9 FAM 201.1-4C, if you go to Canada or Mexico or adjacent islands, I'm not sure what adjacent islands, I have to look that up, it does not reset the 90-day clock. So if you're here for 80 days, you go to Mexico really quick, come back, you only have 10 more days. It doesn't mean you get a reset on the 90 days. So sometimes people hit a foul of this, and you got to be mindful. Now, colleagues have said CBP has made a mistake and reset it before not paying attention, so that is possible. But I'll look at that as the exception, not the rule. So just be mindful. There's no reset there for the ESTA. Number 9, this is a big deal. So the Ombudsman's office had a time they talked. They went into G28 and how that works. And I've had this problem for years that my G28s don't go in the online system, even though you have an account number there. So I'd given up on going to the USCIS online system to check on what's going on in my cases because they wouldn't be inputted. But apparently, the Ombudsman says the information on your G28 has to match exactly how it is in the online system. And if there's anything off by like a one thing, then they won't upload into the system. Haven't done this yet since I learned about this information, but I'm going to go in my online, log into my online USCIS account, look at my G20s and compare. Is my middle name off? Is my bar area off? Is this address off? Is the fax number off? Phone number? And to make sure they all match, so that way we get it there. Because it is a somewhat easier system to have the online system. It's more reliable. I just had a case right now. It's a K1 fiance adjustment case. So at the adjustment stage, they got an RFE for a tax return because the petitioning spouse has delayed his tax return. So we submitted the adjustment status, but he hadn't filed his taxes yet. So we were expecting the RFE. And then finally, he got his taxes filed. So a client on their own, without telling me, went and uploaded it. And then I got this notice because I'm part of the USCIS.gov thing where if you have a case number, it gives you updates. All of a sudden it says, oh, we got your RFE and are reviewing it. I'm like, what the hell? I didn't send an RFE. So I contacted the client. Apparently she uploaded on her own. Luckily, I seen like documents are good. I wasn't happy about that because I like to just mail things in and watch out for myself. But at the same time, I mean, it saves like $30, $25, $30 to do this. I don't care about the money per se, the mailing aspect of the RFE, but it's kind of more reliable that it was uploaded. We know they got it that way. So I was like, well, maybe getting into this online system is good. And probably what we're going to do on a case-by-case basis right now is start experimenting with moving cases online instead of paper-based. It is so many headaches and so much back and forth to client. It has to be someone who's tech savvy, who has a printer, who can print and sign and email stuff and upload. So we're going to start by people, like if we judge a client's tech savvy and they're doing a basic I-130 or an F-400, working with them to do it. And just because it might be a more reliable system to have it all online. We'll see. But that's something we're going to. But going back to the main point of this one is the G28 online, want to fix that up. It's going to make life easier for you. Have access to online things, especially when you get appointment notices. You get it faster there. If it is an RFE, you get the copy of it faster. So it's not a bad thing to have there. I just found it historically so unreliable that I gave up on it. But hey, things change. And number 10, no reinstatement if unauthorized employment. So this is something important to know. If you had someone here on an I-20 study on an F1 student visa, is a thing called reinstatement. So if they drop out, they don't get the grades, their unit level goes below the required amount, they get kicked out. There's a reinstatement process, which takes too long. It's kind of too annoying. Sometimes it's better just to get a new I-20, go and come back in, but you could potentially do a reinstatement. There's benefits to reinstatement with regard to how soon you get CPT or OPT. Whereas if you leave at a new I-20 and come back, it resets the clock for getting work option benefits. But importantly, what happens is if you do unauthorized employment, and that's the reason why there's a violation, you cannot do a reinstatement. Reinstatement does not cover unauthorized employment. If you do that, you got to leave and get a new I-20 and come back in with the new I-20 to restart your student visa process. But as I said, there's things like CPT, which generally require you to have 1 year of study before you get it. Although there's first aid CPT as well. This means there's exceptions to it. But if it could be delays for OPT as well for graduation, all this kind of stuff, it becomes a mess. So be mindful that you cannot do reinstatement if the reason for the violation was unauthorized employment. And this pops up a lot because a lot of people, students, they do CPT, they don't know when CPT ends, they don't pay attention, they work too much, and then it becomes a problem. They go past the date. Thank you so much for everyone listening. The conference is coming up. Contact me soon. The prices are going up. I'll email you the prices we get when you email me. But it's going to be public. Everything the higher prices on the 15th. That's the day that's going to go public. We got an awesome location, great lighting. We're going to have some awesome food, great people, the best teachers there. I got the best immigration lawyers. That's the best of the best. So definitely come and check it out and develop your networking experience there. Colleagues from across the country are coming. So the great part. All the RCPs are from 90% of them, 95% are from across the country. So it's national networking. If someone can't do an interview in Florida, they know you, so they come in Florida. You can do the interview for them for adjustment. If you have a case somewhere in Washington State, you don't have anyone to go through the interview with you, have them there. There's all sorts of cross stuff that helps your business out. Not only that, but also adding another practice area. So that's going to be, doubling up how much income you're having by having this awesome practice area, known as the O1, which later comes the EB1. So that's another extra thing you'll do there. We'll do a conference on how to do that too. But it's just so much that comes from this. It's pennies on the dollar that you're paying for this course, in-person course, along with all that food and all the fun that comes with it. So I look forward to seeing everyone there. And thanks for checking this out. If you haven't already, like and subscribe where you're watching this. Leave a good comment. It helps the algorithm so more people hear about us. So iTunes or Spotify, watch it. Leave a comment about how good it is. And just check it out. Tell friends, everything, all that good stuff. Until next one, God bless, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.